Hello BookTube, it is time for a mid-year check-in. Traditionally here on BookTube, the check-in is the mid-year freakout tag. However, while that particular tag has become tradition to do, many booktubers complain about a lot of the prompts. And some of us have yearned for a new version of that tag that is more reflective of this corner of BookTube. Last week, Greg of Supposedly Fun created a new version of mid-year check-in tag, so I will be doing his version today. And I will leave a link to his channel in the show notes down below, as well as a list of books mentioned and translators of translated literature if I forget the translators' names off the top of my head, which is entirely possible. Let's get started. Prompt number 1. How has your reading year been? My reading year has been rather tumultuous. And that usually happens when I undergo a taste change or taste jump. I don't have a set genre or genres that I read, nor do I have genres nor do I have a circle of genres that kind of expand to new genres. My tastes every few years change, and during these transitions my reading life is rather tumultuous because not only am I falling out of love with the genres that I had been in love with and trying to find what my interests are turning towards, but also there are other things that go along with these changes. I started the year turning towards what I call fiction, poetry, and drama. I had for the past few years focused mostly on manga, Japanese comics. And while I still read quite a number of manga this year, my attention, my love has shifted to fiction, poetry, and drama. And so there's a bit of sadness at falling out of love with manga and excitement at really exploring a lot of what I've been reading this year. Prompt number 2. How many books have you read so far? So one of the things about reading copious amounts of manga is that you can pad your reading stats. So far this year I have read slightly fewer than 200 books, largely thanks to rereading Fairy Tale at the beginning of the year and rereading Fullmetal Alchemist in March, but also a lot of the new releases that I had been collecting over the course of the first part of 2026. Prompt number 3. What's something you haven't gotten to yet but want to? So 2 of the books that I had wanted to read for June were 11-inch by Michal Witkowski, translated from the Polish by W. Martin, and Open Heaven by Sean Hewitt. Unfortunately, the last few days of June, I thought I would only be able to get to Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And so I decided to set 11-inch and Open Heaven aside, and I'm not entirely sure when I will be able to get to either one of them this year. I had thought maybe my Pride reading for next year could have the theme of Pride around the world or Pride in translation, but that's a year out. And I could also do both of them maybe in December, because I do tend to like to reread or try to finish some unfinished business with some of the books that I have either tried to read or wanted to read over the course of the year. So we'll see. Prompt number 4. Do you have an anticipated release still to come this year? Yes, quite a few. There is Small Comforts by Genberg. I think that's her name. Coming out, today. And I should be getting it by the end of the week. It was longlisted for this year's International Booker Prize. Later in the year, the story of the Stork and Dromedary is coming out by Anjet Daanje, translated from the Dutch by David McKay, that I'm really looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to the paperback releases of The Wax Child by Olga Round, Flesh by David Szalay, and I think there's another one that I'm blanking on. And then also in July, there is 2 works of history that I'm debating about. One is Babylon by Lloyd Llewellyn Jones. I have interest in the ancient Near East. And later in July, there is a new history of the Ottoman Empire, which I'm blanking on both the title and the author's name. So I may not necessarily pick that one up if I can't remember it off the top of my head. What else is coming out for the rest of the year? I'm not entirely sure. I don't really keep up all that well with new releases from other sources outside of BookTube. Prompt number 5. Any new favorite authors or books? Yes. I've already mentioned Anjet Daanje. I read her novel The Remembered Soldier, again translated by David McKay, and absolutely loved it. I would love to see all of her body of work translated into English. Her most recent work is about to come out in English translation. Also, Taiwan Travelogue by Shuang-zi, translated from the Mandarin by Lin King, was amazing. I also really discovered the work of Yukio Mishima. I read the Sea of Fertility tetralogy and loved it. And so many others. Also a lot more work by Alan Hollinghurst. I finally read The Folding Star and The Line of Beauty and loved both of them. So this has been a really, really great year for literary fiction. Anyway, moving on to prompt number 6. Who is your favorite character of the year so far? This is a tough one. I would say Kiyowaki from Spring Snow by Yukio Mishima. He is a young man who, a young aristocrat who has a very intense love of beauty and interest in beauty. And he ends up in a ultimately destructive, toxic, though still rather beautiful relationship with the daughter of another aristocrat that Kiyawaki fostered with, so that he could have a greater sense of the cultural aspects of the Japanese imperial court. So I'll go with him, but close runners-up would be Edward Manners from The Folding Star, Nick Guest from The Line of Beauty, and Noon Markon from The Remembered Soldier. Prompt number 7. Has any book or piece of book news made you happy or sad? Not really. Prompt number 8. What is your favorite bookish discovery or achievement? Book, author, purchase, project goal, etc. So, when I started the year, I had 2 goals. One was to read the Sea of Fertility tetralogy by Yukio Mishima, which I did and really enjoyed it. Also, I wanted to read the entire body of work of Alan Hollinghurst, which is still ongoing. I had a bit of a hiccup in April with The Line of Beauty that I worked out in June. And so I still have 3 of his novels to go. But so far I'm very happy with the progress I have made with Alan Hollinghurst, because I've come up with this project several times and it's finally working out. Prompt number 9. Any DNFs? Yes. So I usually term my term for DNF is bailing, or occasionally lately unfinished business. And I have bailed quite a bit this year, although not as much as I sometimes do. I think largely because my tastes have finally turned more towards fiction, poetry, and drama, which when I'm not all that into them, when I do try them, I tend to bail on them fairly heavily. But this year has been working out. So I have had a few bails this year. Some of them I have since read and rather enjoyed. But the ones that are still outstanding are Rakanan's World and Planet of Exile, both by Ursula K. Le Guin. One of the BookTube breeding projects of 2026 was to read the Hainish novels of Ursula K. Le Guin, and I thought I would join in. Unfortunately, I don't like Ursula K. Le Guin. I also have had a very difficult time with the history that I wanted to read. I bailed on both After 1177 BC by Eric H. Klein and Q Voyage Around the Queen by, I think, Craig Brown. I think right now I'm really not all that interested in history, or at least not having as much success, which probably means I won't be picking up either Babylon or the new Ottoman Empire book for the foreseeable future. And I most recently bailed on Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I think I'm not overly enthusiastic. Well, I think where I'm at right now, I'm not really all that into the Victorians. I have read 2 other Victorian novels, or one collection of short stories and one novel earlier this year, and I did not get on with either of them. So I think maybe while my love for fiction is kind of flourishing, I think in a way maybe it's more limited to modern and contemporary literary fiction and literature and translation. But I might come back to Jane Eyre for Victober. That remains to be seen. I'll have to figure that out over the next few months, whether or not I do want to participate in Victober or do something else in October. Prompt number 10. Name some misses. So for this prompt, instead of naming specific books, I'm going to focus a bit more on genre. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, I came into 2026 with my tastes, my taste being manga. And over the course of 2026, I have grown less and less enthusiastic about manga. It started in January with my reread of Fairy Tale by Hiro Mashima, which I didn't enjoy it as much as I did my read in 2025. And a lot of the newer releases, I really wasn't all that enthusiastic about, like the second volume of Ichi the Witch. I didn't particularly care for any of the new volumes or the new series that have come out. I haven't really enjoyed them, like Ultimate Exorcist Kyoishi, Four Nights of the Apocalypse by Nakaba Suzuki is kind of faltering for me. Also, Zom 100. I didn't really enjoy the last volume of that. So, yeah. So that's really the misses have been a lot of the manga that I have tried. So, name some hits. So, for this prompt, I'm going to list my 5 favorite books so far of 2026. At number 1 is The Folding Star by Alan Hollinghurst. Number 2 is The Remembered Soldier by Anjet Daanje. Number 3, or translated from the Dutch by David McKay. Number 3 is Taiwan Travelogue by Shuang-zi, translated from the Mandarin by Lin King. At number 4 is The Line of Beauty by Alan Hollinghurst. And at number 5 is Spring Snow by Yukio Mishima, translated from the Japanese by Michael Taylor, I believe. Prompt number 12. Are there any books you want to get to before the end of the year? So my reading plans tend to be monthly. So I'm not always entirely sure what I'm going to read before I start to make my reading plans. I do plan sometime or have an inkling maybe a month or two before that reading month. So for, like, say, July, I already have my reading plan set. The books are already over here waiting for me to do my July reading plans tomorrow. For August, I have roughly what I want to do for Women in Translation Month sketched in. Although what else I want to do in August, I'm not entirely sure. There is a personal sort of reading thing I do that I'm probably not going to do this year, but I'm not entirely sure about it yet. September, I think I will do Shorty September, and maybe a few other things. I haven't quite figured that out. October definitely is up in the air. November is traditionally nonfiction November, but I don't know if I'm really in the mood for nonfiction. And then December, I like to do some rereads and any sort of bill redemptions that are outstanding or unfinished business that's outstanding. As far as books are like specific books are concerned, again, 11-inch by Michal Witkowski I would like to get to. Open Heaven I would like to get to. I would also like to maybe revisit Seascraper by Benjamin Wood. I really want to get to the Stork and the story of the Stork and the Dromedary by Anjet Daanje. Kairos by Jene Erpenbeck, translated from the German by Michael Hofmann, or is it Matthew Hofmann? I would like to get, because I have some unfinished business with that novel, so I want to get to that in August. Anyone else I really want to get to? I think that's about it, but as the year progresses, I will have a stronger idea of what I want to get to. But right now, the second half of the year, outside of July and part of August, it's very sketchy right now. So that was the mid-year book check-in. Thanks, Greg, for creating this. I really enjoyed it, and I think I will be doing this version of the tag going forward. So, anyway, BookTube, I will see you shortly for the first book haul of July on June 30th. Anyway, see you next time.